Alright, so today's topic recommendation comes to us from the one and only Gilbo-matic. I put up a community post a little while ago asking if you guys had any topics you want to see me discuss. Gilbo said that he wanted me to discuss my thoughts on if the state of social society will ever get better from where it is, right? We've talked about things like erosion of community on this channel. We've talked about how things on like a person-to-person level, not social society in terms of like a grand scale, but more so on like a person-to-person level. Will things ever get better, right? That's what he wants to know. And Gilbo, first of all, shout out Gilbo. We gotta do that. But second of all, thanks for the easy topic. I mean, like after I read your comment being like, discuss this, I was like, all right, I guess I'll like go on a walk. You know, like it was one of those where I had to like step out to really think about it. But yeah, I mean, it's not the easiest, I can tell you that much. It is definitely not the easiest topic. I think there's two ways you could look at this, right? The one way that I think we should focus on more is like a cultural, individual level, right? Because that is the easier thing to discuss. It's the thing that we can discuss with a little more credence than the other, which is like a little bit more of, I guess, like what I'd call a societal scale, because like one thing should be stated right up front here, right? People are getting lonelier and more isolated than ever, socially are worse off than ever on like a grand scale. Like I know for a fact it's like getting worse around the Americas, but I can also say with a degree of certainty, I'm 99% sure it's also throughout like Europe and things like this, right? So one thing we need to, that is stupid to not recognize when dealing with something of that scale, is to be like, this is happening on an individual level. Like oftentimes when something like this happens, you'll see somebody be like, we need to fix culture. Give it to me. Give me, what does that mean? What does it mean to fix culture? Like, what does that mean? That's that I hate when people say, I hate when that's people's solutions to things. Like, culture is bad, we need to fix culture. It's a way of being like, there's a problem, and then you're just going like, well, I'm going to address the problem is this, it's this, and we can't do anything about it. Like, it's a non-answer to a problem. And so many people have been tricked into thinking that is not even a smart thing to say, just a thing that's acceptable to say at all. That makes me mad, but it's not the focus of today's video, right? The focus of today's video is how do we fix it, right? So I think, first of all, we should talk about it on an individual level, right? Because the sort of narrative, the official narrative you'll see around something like this, right? If you look anywhere, is two things. One, 2020, and two, social media, right? People are more isolated, people are lonelier, and it won't recover because social media and 2020, right? They always like to go like 2020 is the turning point because obviously we all went inside for a year. I watched One Piece and everybody was like, we're lonely now. And I honestly hate that because I think that, one, if you look at any sort of data on the subject, it was before 2020 that it started, right? That's when it like blew up. But I would reckon to say that I think that's when people just realized how lonely they were. Because all data points to people having these issues beforehand, right? This has been just like a trend, right? And then that brings us to the second thing, social media. Social media is the bigger one, right? Classic, all these kids on their damn phones are texting and doing stuff, and that's why they're not talking to each other. I don't know how I feel about that, because like I go back and forth on it, because on the one hand, there is definitely a degree of truth in the fact that social media makes it very easy for people to not go outside and to not talk to one another. Like that's a true fact right there. That's an objectively true thing. On the other hand though, like if the whole world is getting lonelier, right? And it was just because everybody decided to start using this thing more. I don't know if that is a legitimate answer to this question. That doesn't feel like one to me, because how could that, like everybody just started doing it? Like it's just a social trend that everybody kind of made that decision? I don't think so. I don't think that that's it. I think people were getting lonelier already because of things like a loss of community, things like that, right? And I think that social media, what it does more so is create something, an alternative for people to go use. I think if we had proper like community stuff, right? Like if we all had little skate parks to go to and, you know, like things like that. If we all had that, then I don't think we'd be on our phones as much, or at least our time on our phones would be a lot more geared towards said thing, towards like going to the skate park, or if we had like a community shop to go to, like things like that, right? These things I think are the bigger thing. I think social media is more a symptom of that. However, I'm not going to discredit the fact that social media created something very addictive. And if we are like let's say tomorrow, let's say in this video, I have some thoughts, one of you comments, turns out you're a genius. You solve the loneliness problem, you solve it all, and because of that, the UN gives you a Nobel Prize. Are those who give the Nobel Prize? I don't know who gives the Nobel Prizes. And they're like, we're implementing your solution, right? You solved it. Let's say it's Gilbo. Shout out Gilbo. Let's say it's you, because you requested the topic. Let's say you figured it out, right? Social media would still be here, and I think people would be just as addicted to it, right? Like, I think that if we, let's say we were to solve this problem tomorrow, bring back the skate park and these things, I still think people would be addicted to social media. And that's why I want to pitch something very simple here. That's totally, I don't know why people act like this isn't a possibility. This isn't something that has a long history of just being done. Making it so social media isn't the most addictive thing on the planet, right? Like when cigarettes were addictive, we were like, let's make sure people aren't smoking cigarettes. Social media, we just treat like this force of nature, and it's like it will never get better. People are just they just love their phones. And it's like, well, what if we did something about that? Like, that's always just what I think there. So like, that's what I'm going to pitch, right? Like, let's just, you know, I don't know how the algorithms work. I'm not a tech guy myself. I have friends in tech though, and from what I understand, you could hypothetically put together a board of people who are like really smart to go through these algorithms and figure out what's making them so addictive and make a social media that is like working for us, right? Like and then even past that, right? Because I think some people might have like a gut reaction to this of like, no, like that's bad. Like for some reason, I don't know. I think people might not like that idea because it's like intervention, or I don't know. I don't know why people wouldn't like the idea, but I feel like people might not, right? I just want to pitch it to you in this way too, right? If I made a big loneliness machine, like I built a lonely ray and I was going around zapping people with it and it would make them all depressed and lonely, you would be like, let's jail this guy and get rid of his loneliness ray. So like, I think they built the loneliness ray. The loneliness ray is real and it's here. And it's called Instagram. And I'm not saying we jail Mark Zuckerberg at all. I don't think that, like, I'm not blaming the guy. I just think we could totally be like, let's make this good. Let's make this not super addictive, right? You know, so that's something that that's something that I want to throw out there, right? So kind of stopping the dancing around here. Will this get better though is the question. Like, is there an endpoint to this? Because I think, if I were to guess here, right, not to put words in Gilbo's mouth, he requested this topic, but if I were to take a guess, I would go and say that you probably requested this topic because of trend, right? If we look at the way things have been trending for years now, things have been trending lonelier and worse and you know, more socially isolated, definitely not less, right? So I'm willing to bet you, like many other people, are questioning like, okay, like, will this trend just continue forever? Because sometimes it feels like that, right? And especially if we look back at history, there's so many times a trend starts and then it just doesn't stop until it becomes normal. Like, until it just becomes the new normal. And I think that's a real fear. I think there's definitely a path forward where we all look at a future where like, oh, like, yeah, we're all lonely people. Like you know, that just started happening. Like, that's just like, in the same way that like your parents are like, yeah, we all live in suburbs. Like, we just grew up here, right? Like that kind of thing. One day maybe social media will be treated the same. And I think that's a fear. I think that's a very real fear of people in this generation, because we are the first people seeing this. We're the first ones experiencing it. And we're all going, oh, is this like it? Like, is this forever? And I'm gonna say, on an individual level, on a cultural level, right, which I think is bad analysis to do, but let's do it for fun here, right? I think no, it's not forever, because I think that you asking this question, and it's not just, I'm saying you as a filler here, because so many people are asking this question. I think that to me proves that it's not going to continue forever, because you and so many others are wondering this, myself included. I've had this thought before, right? And because of that, there's clearly a desire to go in another direction, right? This is a fear that I've had too, because if you look throughout history, technology seems so all-encompassing, and it seems like you can never beat it. Like, the guy with the new invention, he wins, always. That's always how it's gone, right? But for the first time in history, I think we're aware of this new thing having some bad ramifications and going like, wait, are we sure about this one? And I think because of that, I'm inclined to say that, listen, do I think like tomorrow it's going to start getting better? No. But I think because of that, someday it's going to get better. Or at least it'll become more, what's the term, balkanized, where like people split off into groups, whatever. Is that the term of that? Where like you'll see people who are like anti-social media, pro-social media, who are trying to foster communities outside of these programs and not, right? I think that's something you'll see. So I do think that. I also will say that if we're to zoom out a little bit from individuals and look at sort of like, what is it, like market analysis? God, I feel like I'm on Fox News right now. Whoa. If we're to look at that, like I've been seeing a lot of companies that are getting some traction lately that are like all about like, we're gonna make a phone that's so you can go outside and have fun with your friends and stuff like that, right? We've all seen things in this vein. It's blowing up. It's a huge thing now. And that's another reason why I'm like, I think it will get better, because clearly, I mean, these people, I can only assume that they know what they're doing, right? And they're selling stuff. There's a want for this. There is totally a want for this. And, you know, every big change that's ever come has started with a small group of people going, we want things to be one way. And then maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't, you know? I think one of the things that scares me about this too, though, is there's so much money in tech, you know? It's such an all-encompassing space. It feels like you can't avoid it. Dare I go as far as saying I feel like tech is our monoculture now. So like for that reason, I'm inclined to maybe be a little more pessimistic that it won't work out. But overall, largely, I do think it will. That's my conclusion, because I think on an individual level, people want it to. I think there's a desire there. And I also think that there's starting to be a response to that in terms of services provided, which I mean isn't the perfect way to look at things, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, but like, you know, I don't think it's nothing. I will also say, as I touch on here, right, because I said towards the beginning of this, like, of course there's only so far we can go with this, because some of this has to do more so with broad, you know, society and stuff like that, right? And I think that's true. I really do. I think that's a very true thing. So like, I guess I don't know what that looks like, right? And I'm not gonna sit here and pretend I know what that looks like, right? I can be like social media, blah blah blah, like I can do that because I'm a guy that uses social media. I don't know what it looks like to like, you know, do all these things. I will say though, if you ask me, some problems that I see, you know, is I think back to what I was saying, I just don't think there's a lot of places to do things, right? Like I don't think that we have a lot of what is the term? Is it third spaces I've seen people talk about, where it's like just another place to go and hang out? Like the place I'll go to hang out with my friends is usually like a diner or something, right? And that is not great if you don't have money. You know, like that I've had, this is so embarrassing to admit, but I've had times at the diner where I literally ask my friends to pay for me because I'm like, oh my God, I can get you back tomorrow. Like that and sometimes, you know, I've paid for them, like stuff like that happens, right? That's a very normal thing. I'm lying, I've never paid for that, right? I just realized they could see this and they would definitely call me out if I said that. I'm sorry. But that's besides the point. The fact of the matter is that like, there's no place like that you can just go and hang out and be like, I'm here right now, right? And I think that's how you foster a community. I also think that, and this is a uniquely American problem, one that I'm lucky enough to not have to face really here in New York too much, but I see it in other places, that like you can't walk anywhere. I used to go to Atlanta very frequently, right? And one of the things that always boggled my mind going there was like, you need a car to go anywhere, like anywhere you want to go. And that's not exactly great for fostering community either. Like that kind of thing seems bad too, right? There's also, we're missing like the local corner store these days. You know what I mean? Like so much of what was once like a little local shop that you would go into has now become a Walmart. You know what I mean? Like that's not cool, you know? And that's a problem. You know, you used to know the name of the guy who ran your local market, right? You used to know these things. Now you don't, because you don't need to, because it's a Walmart, it's a big box store, it's a Target. And I think things like this, I have the solution of how we get away from it? No, I have no idea. Like, I don't know I'm not smart enough, and I'll never pretend to be smart enough to go like, okay, like we have all these Walmarts, how do we go from having just a Walmart here to like 10 mom and pop shops? Like, how do you do that? I have no idea. I have no idea what that looks like. How do you go from being in a place where you have to drive everywhere to having stores everywhere? I don't know. I don't like sidewalks. I don't know how you do that. Like it all seems very complicated. And I've seen a variety of answers for it, and I'm not going to recite any of them because I don't know which ones are valid. I don't know which ones aren't. I can point, though, to these as what I believe to be issues. I've experienced as issues in my lifetime as I've watched this trend over my life get far worse. So that's my answer. I think that there's a little bit of a push that's going to happen on an individual level, and I think if there is a way that we can answer that push, that I think things will get better in that direction. And I also think that there needs to be some broader stuff going on, you know, maybe like what I was talking about with social media earlier, maybe it's, you know, sidewalks or something. I don't know how you do that. Like maybe it's some of these things, but overall, I'm always gonna be optimistic. I'm optimistic it's gonna get better. So yeah, this is the painting. I like this a lot. You know, I actually really like this. So it was my first time trying the whatchamacallit, the palette knife, right? I want to try the palette knife today. I was nervous for it. And at first I was like, this is coming out terribly. But the more I did this, the more I like put paint onto this canvas. That's the dumbest thing I've ever said. That's what I do every day. The more I like worked on the painting though, I really like this painting, guys. This is like, I think this is really cool. And now I'm adding a fin and it's Savage Dragon. Look at that. If you don't know who Savage Dragon is, search it up. He's this really cool guy. He's green, and he fights crime. That was the dumbest thing I've ever said. We're falling off the tracks towards the end of this, so go check this out on the TikTok and the Instagram. I'll also have a train of thought there. And until next time, guys, gals, and pals, my name is Max Dice. This has been Paint Talk episode 285. I'm every morning painting and talking with you all.